I don't really think downtown theater has an aesthetic. I think it has a kind of community where there's kind of two routes, I think, to become a director in New York. If you want to do a more commercial work, the trajectory is different. You do a lot of assisting, what downtown theater kind of allows you to do is just start working. And so the economics is very different. There's more self-producing, but you can kind of if you have something you want to do, and it's a lot of people doing that. So it's a lot of people getting their hands dirty a lot earlier. So I think I just had ideas about wanting to make theater, and that was the place I could go. I didn't have to assist and direct somebody and watch them work. So in fact, it's kind of got less to do about aesthetic and more to do with just the economy of being able to do your own work. And it's a really interesting community because there's a lot of young people trying to figure stuff out on their own, and there's a lot of resource sharing. And so for me, it was just a welcoming space to make work and to play out my ideas. Well, I think I'm really interested in expanding what the theater can contain. Because I come from a dance background, I'm really interested in how other forms can expand what the theater is and how it works. So I work a lot across disciplines, either in collaborating with artists from other disciplines or pushing myself to expand in areas that are not just strictly the theater. So I'm always interested in where forms cross over and bringing different kinds of convention from music, from classical music, from popular music, in terms of what the difference is when you watch a performance that's a band versus going to a gallery. And I think my philosophy is that I'm really interested in change and learning, and so I find that accelerates the process. So working across disciplines or with larger collaborations pushes me to the work to change me, as opposed to me having a certain set of ideas and then making everything I do look one way. I think in terms of how does that translate in how I teach, I'm really interested in trying to work with more elements in the process. I've pushed here for more opportunities for students to try to make their own work, whatever that means, however many limitations they have, but also to work with light and sound and as many elements as you can, because you can solve a lot of problems in lots of different ways, as opposed to thinking oh, I have this small palette of ways to solve this problem. So I think Apparition is a good example where we've worked with a lot of elements early, and I've had assistant design people in the room, so we've worked with costume, we've worked with light, we're working with the composer, and it's all happening at the same time. Because I think sometimes when there's a problem in one way, it could be that the sound can solve the problem or the light can solve the problem. That's sort of my teaching philosophy, is just to help students see there's a lot of different ways to go about something and getting your ideas across. This thing is related to the other question. That piece is a very highly integrated multimedia piece, in the sense that it's acting, but there's lots and lots of technology involved and sound that's involved, but it's highly integrative. So it took me about 5 years to make that piece. That's the way it came about, was trying to get the technology and the acting and the set and all the design elements to operate along the lines of the sort of thematic goals of the work. So it's this thing about trying to work with all the elements at the same time that leads to something that is uniquely integrated in terms of that really reflects the performers that I'm working with, but also the collaborative team on it, so that what you're seeing is sort of unique because there's a unique group of individuals doing it, also bringing a set of tools to that work. So that's kind of how I go about the work being innovative, in a way, is finding new ways to do things, is tapping the people in the room and using as many tools as we can to dig deeper into the material. So. I hope that they're engaged in the performative aspects of the piece. For me, it's a very poetic piece. It's a very musical piece. It's structured almost more like music than it is like a play. So I don't know, it's not a play to me that has a very explicit message, but it's a play that's attempting to evoke a kind of sensation that's very mysterious, that's people trying to kind of articulate a known sort of uneasy feeling, and I think that's an interesting thing for art to kind of try to grapple with. There's a sort of meta-theatrical aspect to the piece which I think is really interesting within an educational setting, because this is a sort of sciencey school, and a lot of students that I have don't really know how the theater works in a lot of ways, and so this sort of reveals like a lot of the mechanisms about like how theater happens and how theater gets made. I feel really good about the crew and sort of the involvement of the crew and the cast together, and I think with the students that we have, I like that there doesn't seem to be a hierarchy between like the acting and the technical and the design things. And so for me, I really like the vibe of the feeling of cast and crew making the work together, and how the piece sort of reveals that. Because I think in my own work, I work a lot with a lot of technical artists, you know, programmers and things like that. And for me, they're as integral to the work as the performers that the people see. So, and I try to keep that more open, and the technological aspect and the people doing that work more transparent. I hope that people will be engaged in the sort of transparency. Also, there's a composer from the music school who's performing, and sometimes we just want to watch the composer play percussion, and sometimes that's what the piece does. So it's also interdisciplinary in that way. I think I wanted people to get excited about what is possible in performance, and also to reflect back the work of the students, because I think they're doing really great work, and I think it's an opportunity for the department to kind of see itself, you know, and the students to get a certain level of satisfaction for working really hard. I think I'm a sort of work hard, play hard sort of person, because I get a lot of satisfaction if you work really hard when you invite the audience in, and that feeling of just seeing what is possible and what can be done, and kind of evoking that spirit. And so I hope that's what people go away with, is like how much potential there is here, and like having music, you know what I mean, having a music school, and the students having a chance to work with the composer, not necessarily musical, but like there's a musical aspect to the piece, and they've had a very close relationship with Joey. So I don't know, I think that's what I want to do. I want people to kind of be excited about, and a little bit set that side of themselves, that like, what's going on and what's the plot, like set that a little bit aside, and just try to be open to the language, the sound, the light, and kind of what the theater is and what it does. So I guess that's that's what I would say.